And we're back. Real estate in different states. Kyle and Blake. We got another guest this week. I'll let you introduce him once again. Kyle, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited to have this guest on the podcast. This is episode number 11, isn't it, Blake?
It is.
Episode 11. We got a special treat for you guys tonight. His name is TJ Harris. I don't want to introduce him too much, but TJ, go ahead and why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's TJ Harris. I'm from a small town right outside of Nashville, Tennessee, about 45 minutes. I am 24 years old, real estate investor, been doing real estate for about 3.5 years. Grew up in the car business, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
The
Car
car
business is
business.
in. Yeah. Go ahead and ask that, Kyle.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like that sounds super cool to me. Like what you got going on in the car business?
So grew up in the car business. Family owns a really small car dealership in our hometown. Started buying and selling cars at 16, and been doing it ever since then. So I've been doing it for a while, kind of understand the business, and it's really my bread and butter.
So you used to be a used car salesman?
So I've done pretty much I'm not gonna say everything in the car business because I don't want to lie, but I've done just about all of it. Sold cars, started detailing cars, when I was really young. The only thing I probably haven't done is like the financing side of it, working in the finance office and probably doing like title work and stuff. But yeah, I mean, right now my biggest thing is I mostly buy inventory, so I go to a lot of auctions like Wednesdays and Thursdays. Every Wednesday and Thursday, just about I'm at the sale buying cars, buying inventory for the lot. And so I don't really sell anymore, mostly just the buy side of it. And then we sell them at the car dealership. So, but yeah, I mean, I sold for years before I got into real estate. So that's kind of where I learned maybe the negotiation side for the real estate, is knowing how to buy, knowing how to sell. And so that's kind of where I learned a little bit of the entrepreneurship from is jumping straight into business at a really young age. So um yeah.
Awesome, man. So are you you're still actively doing some work in cars, right?
Correct. So like I said, really the only time that gets consumed in the car business is mostly Wednesdays and Thursdays. I go down there throughout the week to help out with some things and whatnot, but most of my time is consumed up with real estate now. And I'm mostly doing that full time, but still actively buying and selling cars through the dealership.
Sweet, man. That's awesome. So what made you you did that all your life? You said that your family did it, you did it. What made you why didn't you just keep doing that? Why did you go into real estate?
So I think I definitely will always be in the car business. I really do enjoy pretty much everything about it. It is a stressful business and it does require a lot of time and work. But the reason I got into real estate is I wanted to do something that was more long term. And just like with anything, if you're having to trade your time for money, it's always good until it's not. Like you're constantly having to work for that next dollar. And so just honestly, for some reason, I don't know why, but real estate was the first thought that I had. Because it's just kind of what everybody thinks of is like, you get money from rent, it comes in every month on the first, and it's more of like a passive income. Nothing's ever really passive. You're always trading your time doing something, no matter what business you're in. But real estate, I really feel like is kind of a passive thing. No matter what, if you've got good tenants, which more than likely most of the time you do, you're gonna have money coming in every month. And so I wanted to get into something that was more passive instead of having to spend all my time working for the rest of my life. Like I'm young now, so I've looked at it as like if I set myself up now and work hard for the next 10, 15 years, hopefully if I do things right, I'll be able to enjoy my 40s, 50s, and 60s and not have to stress and work constantly. So that's just real estate was the first thing that came to mind. So I just threw darts at the board and went at it, and here we are 3.5 years later.
So you're saying real estate, the only influence to make you go into it was yourself? You're like, I think I'm just gonna
Yeah,
do this.
yeah. So I bought my first property at 19. I was about to turn 20. This was at the end of 2019. And I knew nobody in real estate and I knew nothing about real estate. My first deal, If we backtrack a little bit, I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of school at 16 years old, junior year of high school, and that was because I just never liked school. I've always kind of been an entrepreneur. I was big into shoes when I was younger. I had a small e-commerce business when I was 15 years old, buying and selling a Japanese skill toy, and so I've always just had like that little bit of entrepreneur in me, and so dropped out at 16. My parents were like, well, if you're going to quit school, you're going to work. And so I immediately went straight into the car business, in which I was already kind of, like I said, detailing cars at a really young age and always being there and helping and watching my dad kind of operate the business. And so at 16, I had $1,500 in a savings account. I bought my first car at 16 years old, which was a 2003 Cadillac DeVille. So I don't know if you know what that looks like, but it's not really the ideal like car, that somebody would want to buy. But it was
In
1,500
Baytown, it
bucks,
might be.
and
We got a lot
I
of
sold the car a
gangsters.
couple weeks later and doubled my money.
So,
You
okay.
said what?
No, I was just saying in Baytown, that Cadillac might be a big hit because we got a lot of gangsters down here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I would know. Hey, it was the perfect pimp mobile for sure. But yeah, I mean, I bought that car for $1,500 and sold it for $3,000 a couple weeks later, and instantly, I mean, I was kind of hooked from there. I was like, like I learned a lot from that, and I was like, there's money here, and so that's really what made me want to dive in and learn the business and how to operate things, and so from there, I just kind of ran with it and started scaling it up slowly and building that snowball, and then that's when I realized like, okay, this is making me decent money at a really young age. And I realized quickly that if I do things right and put my money in good places and not blow it on stupid things, which I did, I bought some really dumb things at a young age. When I was 18, I bought a um 2016 Cadillac CTS-V, and it was the first thing I'd ever financed myself at 18, and my payment was $1,500 a month. So really stupid decision for an 18-year-old to make. But I'm thankful for those things because I learned, and I realized quickly that like, I'm making good money and I could make good decisions and be able to do things like that 20 years from now, or 15 or 10 or whatever, 5, if I just make the right decision now. And so that's why I was like, I want to do something where I can take this money that I'm making from flipping cars and put it into something that I can't touch, or something that continues to grow and kicks out cash monthly or whatever it is. And so that's where I was just like real estate. And so I had saved up $40,000 by the age of 19 from flipping cars. And at
wow.
this time, I'm still living with my parents. I don't have any bills. The only bills I had was my $1,500 a month car payment, which I actually ended up selling that car probably about a year later. So around that time at 19, I had sold the car, just driving something off the car lot, something cheap, and I had 40,000 saved up, and it everything just kind of happened to fall in place. And I was talking with a good friend of mine that I really grew up with, and I was, we were talking. He was like, "Yeah, my parents are splitting, and Dad's moving to Florida, and he's going to sell the house." And instantly, I was like, I would love an opportunity at buying it. Like, I don't know what it's worth or how I'm going to buy it or anything, but I would just like to, get a shot at it. And so I called his dad, and I knew him really well. I've known him my whole life. Grew up in a small town. We all know each other, and so I knew this house very well. I mean, it was like the summertime that's the house we'd go hang out at. I knew it really, really well. It's like a second home to me. And so I went and talked with him and was super nervous and had no idea what I was doing. Like, I hadn't been in this house in probably 5 years at that time, and I didn't even walk through the house. I just knew I wanted to buy my first property. And so I told him, I was like, what do we got to do to get this done? And he's like, well, I had a realtor come look at it today. He's like, I really need 90,000 for it. And I was just like, okay, let's do it. What do we need to do to go forward from here? And so I didn't pull any comps. I didn't know what it cost to fix the house up. I didn't know what I could rent it for. I just knew $90,000. I'm going to need 20% down. And so I knew I had enough money to take the deal down, and that was all I knew. And so I had good relationships with my bank because at a young age, obviously, I was making good money. And so I met with my banker early on, and I was making good money, so I had the tax returns to be able to buy a property in my own name and put 20% down. And so I did at 19, or at the end of 19. I was about to turn 20, and so what ended up happening was, it's kind of a crazy story, and I'm very thankful for this first deal because I wouldn't be anywhere where I'm at today without that deal and without my friend that helped connect that deal, and we're still really good friends to this day. And but the house ended up appraising for 75K. And so I had it under contract for 90,000. And I remember the phone call like it was yesterday when my banker called, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I literally called the guy and was like, hey, I'm sorry for wasting your time, but I can't buy the house because I don't have enough money to put 20% down and cover an appraisal gap or cover the difference. I didn't know what an appraisal gap was at the time. I just knew that like I'm buying it for 90 and it only appraised for 75, and I don't have the difference to do that and put 20% down and fix the house up. So I called him back and was like, hey, I'll give you a couple $100 for your time, but I can't buy the house. I don't have the money to do it. And he said, well, I've already made plans to move. Like, I'm already on track to sell this thing, like I want to get a deal done. And so he was like, he said, sell me a truck at cost because I need a truck. And I said, okay, done. And so sold him a truck at cost and he sold me the house for 75K. So he cut it down to what it appraised for. I put 20% down and then I used the rest of the money to fix the house up. Which, I literally used all of it. Like by the time I was done with the house, I was completely broke. And so, and mind you, like I told you, the reason I got into real estate was because I wanted to start doing something that was passive and pay me every single month. So I was wanting to start my rental portfolio with this house. And, I did all the work myself. Like I didn't know how to, I mean, I don't even have a GED, so I don't know how to do anything. So I'm literally on YouTube watching videos on how to lay backsplash. I'm in the house literally day in, day out, sanding cabinets. Like it was a process that I'm super thankful for because I learned literally so much from the first deal. And, so when I got finished with it after 6 months of fixing this thing up,
6 months.
it took me 6 months. I was doing it all myself. I didn't know who to call or anything. And so it took me 6 months to do this rehab that was, now today thinking about it, probably would have took me 2 or 3 weeks. When I finished it, I was like, I'm out of money now. So like, I don't have money to flip cars anymore. Like I'm cold broke. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can put a renter in here. This deal will work, but I have to leave all this money in here. And at the time, I didn't know anything about real estate. So I didn't know any strategies. I didn't have mentors. I didn't know nothing. So I, I made the decision to put the house up for sale. I listed on Facebook Marketplace myself. So I was in it. I was in it for $100,000 after I fixed it up and everything.
The 25K rehab.
Yeah, just about 25K in rehab. So I fixed the house up. I'm in it for 100. I put it up on Facebook, take the pictures myself, and list it for 150. And actually a guy here in Clarksville that you would know well. I don't know if I mean, he probably wouldn't care,
Yeah,
but Alan Mosier's parents bought the house.
Okay.
Because they own 2 houses in the center of this little cul-de-sac. And so they came over and looked at it and they liked it. And they wrote me a check a week later and we closed on it. No agent fees, no closing costs. We met at the like the clerk office or whatever, and we just quick claimed the deed in their name. They met me at the bank, paid my payoff, and then wrote me a check for the difference.
So you made
So,
close to 50.
I made
grand.
just right about $50,000 on my first flip. And it was the wildest deal because like to this day, like
But it took 6 months.
it took 6 months to do it. It did take 6 months to do it, and I learned a ton though. The money was huge, but the knowledge that I gained from the process of doing that was just major for me. Like it changed my perspective on things a lot because I realized that like, okay, this takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. So I've got to figure something out that's going to work more efficiently.
Yeah.
So I took about a year break from buying real estate after that and went
For real?
Yeah. And then went really heavy in the car business because I had more capital then. So I got my
Okay.
original 40K back and then my 50K profit, and I had to pay some taxes on that. So I had more capital to play with. So I went back into heavy buying cars and doing that. And I took about a year to really study things and network and meet people and try to learn as much as I could. And that's when I read the Burst Strategy book, Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, Repeat. And I was like, okay, this could actually really work. Like I've got enough now where I could buy like a really crappy cheap house, fix it up with my own cash, buy it cash, and then put a renter in there, refinance, and have potentially $0 in a house,
Mhm.
And so am I rambling or is this good?
No, you're doing good, bud.
Okay.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
Okay. I didn't know. So yeah. So I read that book and I was like, okay, I can really make this work. So my first rental property I bought at the beginning of 2021. I told you that I've never bought a deal from a wholesaler before this, but I actually haven't. So this deal actually did come from a wholesaler, but my dad originally bought the deal and then realized he didn't want to mess with it. That was because my dad not in real estate at all. This just had happened to be like some guy contacted him through the car lot and was like, "Hey, there's this property right around the corner. Like, are you interested in buying it?" And he was like, "Sure." Like but he didn't even want to mess with it. So he sold it to me. He put a roof on it and then sold it to me for 10K over what he bought it for. So my own dad made a $10,000 lick on me, which is funny, but I don't care. So I mean, it worked out. But I ended up buying the house for 45,000 all cash, and this house is
This is your first burr?
This is my first burr. This is in Guthrie, Kentucky, my hometown, about 15 minutes from here. So the house needed everything. My dad had put a metal roof on it as soon as he bought it, and then realized he didn't want to mess with the rehab, so he marked it up 10 grand, sold it to me. So I had a new roof. That was it.
That's how you know your family's a family
Hustler, baby.
right
My dad
there.
always says if you can't make money off your family, then who can you make money off of? That's what he always tells me. But so I bought the house 45K. I spent and forgive me if my numbers are off. I usually remember things pretty good, and I'm not super good at math, but I'm gonna be close on these numbers, I know. But so I bought it for 45. I think I spent 27,000 on it. So that put me in, what does that put me at? Is that $72,000, I believe? Is that right?
45 plus 27?
Yeah. 72 grand.
65,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Anyways,
you're
yeah, 72 grand. And so I did everything: new floors, HVAC, all new kitchen cabinets, all new kitchen, all new bathroom, tons of sheetrock, um, all for 27 grand, which honestly isn't that bad now that I think about it. Like I did a pretty good job on the rehab, but it wasn't nothing insane, like pretty basic stuff. So, anyways, paid all cash for it, bought it cash, fixed it up cash. So I'm in for 72K. And that's a decent chunk of what I had, knowing, I told you kind of what I had after I had done that first flip. And so I was like, all right, well, let's do this thing. Let's see if this works. So I go to my bank. I said, hey, I own this house free and clear. I want to put 80% debt on this thing. They're like, all right, here's an application, fill it out. I did that. Gave them my taxes, and they sent an appraiser out. It appraised for $90,000. So they gave me a check back for 75K. So I paid myself back all my money plus closing costs for the loan. So I still own that house to today, and I'm $0 in it. It rents for $800 a month. My payment on that loan is $388 a month. So the house was free, and it cash flows probably 150 to $200 a month. So that was my first bird deal. And after I'd done that, I was like, okay, this can actually work. I did it obviously on a cheaper house, but I just bought a piece of real estate basically for free. That's going to go up in value every single month, and that is going to get paid down every single time that payment is being paid on it. And so like my equity is constantly growing in this. And then obviously over time I learned about the tax benefits with depreciation and whatnot. But yeah, since then I've done 10 of those 10 bird deals. I've got 10 single family homes, and I've got a 10plex that I own. And I didn't burr the 10plex, but it will eventually be somewhat of a burr. I had to put 20% down on it, but we had instant equity in it. So we essentially could have done a burr, but the goal is increase rents, raise the value on it, and then refire our cash out in probably 2 to 3 years. But I've successfully done 10 burrs on 10 single family homes.
Okay, so total doors is 20 then?
20, 21. Well, it's going to be 20 after I sell this house on Swan. But right now I'm sitting with 21 doors.
So 20. Oh, they don't count. 20 doors.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Shoot away. I'm bad about just kind of rambling off about stuff. So
No, that's good. No, I appreciate that. So I don't know if Kyle told you, but I do mortgages. That's my part of real estate. So hearing what you said, you were in the car business, kind of a family business, and then you bought your first home at 19, which is crazy because the youngest I've ever done is 21, which was still crazy to me.
yep.
But so you said you sent your tax returns. Were you 1099 or were you W-2? I'm just curious.
W-2. So I've always been self-employed. I've never had a job. So I had one solid year of taxes, and then like I said, I bought that first house at the end of 2019. So I basically had all my books done for that year. Basically like a rough draft for the taxes for that year, and they took it like that. Because I mean, I like I said, I was making pretty good money. So I mean, it wasn't really much of an issue. Today I like especially with the way bankers are conservative right now, I think everybody that's W-2 or self-employed is struggling with the bank saying, well, it hurts a little bit with your, money not being as consistent because obviously like you're not getting a weekly check, if you're self-employed. In most cases, some people might pay themselves a salary or something like that, but I make my money from buying and selling cars, and so that's not really consistent income because it's, you could sell 10 cars one month and sell 3 the next month.
And then you said you have a Tenplex, which is a commercial deal. So do you have a LLC set up or anything like that?
Yes, sir. I have so all my single family homes are in one LLC, and
Okay.
then the Tenplex is my first multifamily property, and so I separated that from the single family home. So I have an LLC strictly for multifamily. So it is in its own LLC.
And are all of your loans done through the same bank?
No. I have 3 banks that I've done loans with.
Okay. Because typically I think Kyle does this, but I guess if you build a good relationship with your bank, they tend to lend more. But I was just curious about that.
Yeah, every bank's different. The one that I use the most, some people get kind of hung up on, which every bank's different. They all have different requirements, but some people get hung up on like there's like a thing that goes around where people say you can only have 10 loans or something like that out, which is true to an extent on a certain loan, but like
It is
I
for
go
Fed,
conventional.
yeah.
I go conventional, and so my bank's cap is like $20 million is the most they'll lend to one customer. So and I think most of the banks with the loans that I do, that's kind of how they go. It's not like a certain amount of houses or loans that you have with them.
That's correct. Fannie Mae, as
It's
a
10. Yeah, that's right. That's what it
as a
was.
single person, you can only have 10 houses.
Right.
So I was asking you about the LLC because once you flip to commercial side, there's no limit. So that's why I was curious. But yeah, Fannie Mae will only allow you to have 10 houses under a person, but you can
Correct.
flip it to
Yes,
yourself
sir.
to an LLC. So I was just curious how you did it. So thank you.
Yeah, I've operated everything through an LLC. I close it in my personal name, and then whenever I
Switched over.
refi,
Yeah, yeah,
I quick claim it over to an LLC.
yeah, yeah. Okay, perfect. No, that's good information. I was curious. What you got, Kyle?
So I just have a question for you. So, I mean, you just kept going on with your story, but it's hard to keep up with because I had so many questions. But the first question I had was, you're 19 years old, buying your first deal from your dad, your friend's dad, right?
No, well, my best friend growing up, his dad.
Yeah, your best friend's dad.
Correct.
So you're 19 though. So like, I'm just trying to imagine Blake. Like,
I
I'm
know,
19.
dude. When we were
Your
19,
dad's trying to sell his house, so I'm like rolling up to him. Like, what was that like? Were you like, did he even take you seriously? Was like, because
yeah,
I
because when me
just
and
can't
Kyle were
imagine
19, dude,
doing that when I'm 19.
Yeah,
we were
I
slamming
mean,
beers.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying completely, and I think that the way I've always presented myself is like I've just always kind of been an entrepreneur, and so he knew I was in the car business. Like I said, small town, everybody knows everybody, and so like I think he knew like, and I kind of told him like, I can swing at this like if it's affordable, like if it's within the right price, and like he knew I was serious, and I think like it really helped get that deal because we kind of had a relationship like as if like his son was like my best friend. He still is a really good friend. I still consider him best friend today, but he's doesn't live close anymore. But I think having that relationship with him really helped because there was actually another person really interested, and I actually thought I wasn't going to get the deal because that other person is a lot better off than what I was at the time. And so I thought I stood no chance. I went home and told my mom that night. I was like, I'm really bummed because I want to get this deal. I want to get my first house, but I really don't think it's going to happen because like I don't think I stand a chance. Like they're going to pay more. Yeah, and so my mom's like, well, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And so, and he called me the next morning and he's like, let's do it. And so I wrote up a contract and
How'd you get a contract?
So yeah, it's all good stuff. I mean, one of my dad's good friends that's in real estate that lives in Springfield, he comes up to the car lot like once a week, and I was like, hey, I've got a deal going. And I actually called him. I was like, hey, can you send me your contract you use? It was like a 2-page contract. I didn't even read, like I still to this day don't even read the contracts. I dropped out of high school. I can barely read as it is, literally. But no, yeah, I mean it was a super simple contract, and so I actually still have it today, and I've got it at my house, and I've been meaning to frame it, but because it's kind of a special thing to me, like
That's cool.
it is cool. It's a cool story, and so But yeah, I mean, I think he took me pretty serious, like he could tell that I was really excited about trying to make it happen. And I kind of told him like what I was trying to do and, my goals with things. And I think that, he's a great guy and he's always been awesome. And so I think he kind of respected that and was like, I've known him forever. I'd rather, him have it than somebody else. And so I think that's where building relationships are huge in this business.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think your story's freaking awesome, man. Like the whole didn't graduate high school, now look at me type attitude, and I love it. I'm
No,
all
I
about
appreciate that
that,
because
100%.
one thing that Kyle has really dug in on during this podcast, our first couple episodes where it was just us, was building relationships with people
Yep.
and how far that goes in the real estate world or entrepreneurship world just in general. So it sounds like what you've done is build a lot of relationships, small town, and kind of moved it upward. And now you have what, 21 units at 24 years old, which is blowing my mind. But I mean, when I was 24, oh man. So that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, I really think relationships are no, I don't think, I know they are the number one thing in really any business. And I think I really learned that from the car business. Like Colin and I were talking about before, all of my deals, I've bought one deal, from the MLS, which was one of my first ones, early on. But like 90% of them come from relationships, word of mouth, people knowing I'm buying real estate. And I always try to do the right thing. Like I'm huge on a relationship. I put money aside. It's always the last thing on my mind when I'm doing any transaction. I always want to make sure that everything's a fair deal and everybody's happy when a transaction happens. And so I always try to make it the smoothest, easiest process because, especially real estate, like selling real estate can be a stressful thing. And so I know that if I can make it as easy as possible for both parties, that everybody will be happy at the end of the day. And a lot of business is generated from word of mouth, and word of mouth comes from doing good business and building
Yeah.
good relationships. And so, like I said, I've learned that from the car business because, my dad's been in business for 30 years and we're in a town of 1,200 people and we do really well there. And that comes from doing the right thing, building good relationships and treating people right. And you'll get as much business as you can, possibly need. And so I've implemented that in real estate and it's worked till today and I'll do it for the rest of my life and always put relationships first and people first and try to do the right thing. And so that's just, that's really what's always worked for me. So I stick with what works and try to make everybody happy at the closing table.
That's really crazy you mentioned that because I was riding with my buddy Steven all day. We went to College Station and back, so we spent 4 hours together in the car. And we were talking because his wife is a broker. She has about 100 agents under her. And he does mortgages with me. And we were just talking about morals and if you keep your um how do I say this about cousin? If you keep everything right, then it comes back to you good. But
Absolutely.
if you play the game wrong, I guess karma,
Every time. Yeah. I
whatever you
agree
do is going
100%.
to come around, I guess is the best way to
100%.
put it.
100%.
But that's cool you said that because we were just talking about that like 2 hours ago. So that's really cool you mentioned that.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, honestly.
Yeah.
So I got another question, TJ. So you mentioned your first burr, but like in today's market and interest rates, are you able to still burr, or is it? I mean, does it honestly come down to how deep you get the deal, or I mean, how do you do it now?
I think that, and also I keep referring back to the car business because I mean without the car business and what I've learned from that, I honestly I wouldn't know the things that I really know today. I mean, because it takes being in a business and seeing how things operate and knowing the buying selling side to be able to really learn these things. And so from the car business, I've learned that you make your money when you buy. And so if you don't buy right, you're not going to exit right. And so I just know that, if you're buying right, you can make deals work in any market. And so, yeah, I mean, I just closed a refi last week on one, that I bought a couple months back and deal works great. Got good equity in it. It cash flows. I have little to no money in it. I did have to leave a little bit in it because I mean times are a little tougher right now. The market is really really strange. I don't think, I think a lot of people get caught up on the interest rates right now. And I think that like it's the interest rates aren't the problem. It's more of like deals have really just dried up. Like I was telling somebody the other day, like everybody's like, "Oh, I like the high interest rates because I can get better deals." And I'm more on the side of like, I like when rates were low and the economy was hot because I bought good deals and I got good financing. And so, like right now it's like you can get good deals, but you're not going to get good debt, which that will change eventually. You'll refinance out of that, hopefully, ideally if rates go down in 2, 3 years and you have stuff locked at 8%, if you can make it break even or cash flow at 8%, what's it going to do at 4 or 5%? Your cash flow is going to be really good. And so, yeah, I mean, we had this conversation before and we were talking a little bit about like how banks have really just tightened up and they're not really wanting to lend money right now. And I don't think that's really like to like any specific person. I think that's just everybody in general. Like I've heard from a lot of guys that are really wealthy and have good equity and a good real estate portfolio, and they've just been shut down on some stuff from banks where you would think that they would turn over backwards to make that deal happen. And so I just think that everybody's just kind of treading cautiously because we're in a weird market where we don't know where things are going to go. Yeah. And so I think it's good to just be cautious. And if you're going to buy stuff, make sure you buy right and just tread cautiously when you're buying, if you don't think you're buying deep enough, you need to buy deeper because you just don't know where things are going to go. Rates are constantly going up. But I think if you underwrite your things right before you go into a deal, that's how you make deals work. But I think right now, the hardest thing is just getting financing on deals. Like banks simply just really don't want to lend money right now. And I get it. If I was a banker or a bank, I mean, I completely understand it. We're in a market where we don't know where things are going to be in the next month or 2 months or tomorrow, so I think everybody is just treading cautiously, but I don't think that means you shouldn't go buy deals because there's always good deals to be had, but just make sure you buy right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, TJ, appreciate that, but I think we only have time for one more question.
Okay.
So I want to get into the crazy story, the one
Okay.
you told me, or whatever one you want to tell. So craziest real estate story you got.
As in good, bad, or what?
Let me ask one question before that, real
Whatever.
quick.
Okay.
So our main goal of this podcast is to get people who are in a 9 to 5 to get into a not 9 to 5 to go out and be an entrepreneur like yourself.
Okay.
So before the crazy story, I'm trying to not to make this a long question, but what would you give advice of how to get? Okay, so I mean, you kind of were in the car world, which is kind of entrepreneurship itself. So you weren't really tied down, were you? I mean, did you have to be at work a certain time, leave a certain time type of stuff?
No, I've always been lucky enough to be flexible on that schedule. When I was working there a lot, I tried to be, I tried to be there at 9, leave at 5 or 6, and just make it a habit of being there consistently within hours. But yes, I mean, if I showed up late, it wasn't like I was going to get fired, so I was blessed enough to be flexible with a schedule.
Okay. So my question is, what advice do you have to someone that might be on the field or the edge or the fence of trying to do what you're doing, but they are scared to?
I would say that, so I think what I tell everybody is biggest thing to understand is what's your goal and what are you trying to achieve? Because if you don't know that, you don't know what direction you're trying to go. And so I think you'll find yourself lost in going a bunch of different ways and trying to do a bunch of different things. And so like for me, the reason I got into real estate is because I wanted to create something that was passive and have something that generates passive monthly income, something that kicked off cash consistently. And so in real estate, that happens by owning rental properties. And so for me, my goal was to build a rental portfolio that generates monthly income. And so that somebody else might have a different goal than that. And so I think like you align things with what your goals are with whatever you want to get into. And I think that's the first thing you start with, because if you don't know your goal and what you want to achieve, then how are you going to know which way you should move to, get the stepping stones going, build that snowball and push forward with it. So I think the biggest thing is figure out a goal, write things down, make monthly goals, yearly goals. I struggle with that today. I don't really do that as much as I should be. But when I was first getting started, and what really pushed the pencil to make that happen is I was committed to just buying my first deal. And I think a lot of people get hung up on analyzing things too deep and think about all the things that could go wrong instead of things that could go right. And so I'm a person where if, it's a little different for me because I was younger and I don't have kids and I'm not married and I'm not, I was living with my parents at the time. And so my risk was little to none. Like if I failed on the first one, I'd start over again. But I think that if you approach every deal with a little bit of that, but also tread cautiously, make sure you're buying right. I think you'll do well. But I think that, just figure out what your goals are, what you want to achieve, and don't get held back by all the things that could go wrong. Look at things that could go right, and just try to slowly approach towards your goals and what you really want to do. And I think that'll help you push the pencil, because a lot of people do get hung up. So many people get hung up on things that could go wrong. Like if I had $1 for every time somebody said, well, what if your attendants don't pay? It's like, what if they do pay? I mean, it's people go back and forth with all these different things. And it's like, if you really want to make something happen and you really want to get something done, you got to push the pencil forward, figure out what your goals are, and achieve them.
I completely agree. My last question before the crazy story is, what is your goal? How many units do you want to own before you're like, okay, I did it?
That's changed a little bit. When I first started, I bought my first one, I wanted 100 doors by 30, which I believe is completely achievable. I've got 6 years to do that.
I would totally say so, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I've got 80 more to go. And to be completely honest with you, I believe I could probably do that in a year or two. But I feel like that there really is no rush. And after talking over the years with mentors and people, like I really shouldn't be focused on how many doors I have. I should be, because like I said, my goal was passive income. And yes, passive income comes from having more doors or more real estate or more properties. But at the end of the day, it's like I should be really focused on the cash flow side of things. And so like I've kind of got like a cash flow number in mind that I'd like to be at. I think like if I could get to like $40,000 a month from real estate passively, I feel personally that like if you're at $50,000 a month, you can buy the car you want, you can buy the house you want, you can go on vacation when you want, you can do what you want when you want. Like if you've got 50K a month coming in every single month, to me that's financial freedom, I believe. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I would still like to hit that number of 100 doors by 30, but if it doesn't happen, I won't be upset because, I could change my path on like kind of what kind of real estate I want to be in. Like I've thought about looking at some like warehouse or industrial stuff, and obviously like one warehouse deal could cash flow 10K a month. It's just every deal's different. So that could change. I think that's where I'm at right now, is more of a cash flow thing than a number
So
of
you
doors.
change it from doors to income.
Income. Yep.
Okay. Well, dude, I'm 32 and you're kicking my ass, so congrats to you.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like I keep telling TJ, I'm like, bro, you need about 4 more doors, and so you can say 24 is sitting on 24.
24. Is that a song?
That's pretty funny.
I think that's a song, dude.
It probably is. It probably is a song. Maybe
Yeah.
we should make a song about it when it happens on
24.
the podcast.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Episode 2, and I'll rap 24 sit on 24.
Oh yeah, you'll rap it for us? Yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, bust out the story, man. I'm anxious.
Oh, it's a good one.
So what do we want here? Do we want something like good, bad, or I mean
all of it.
I want the good one. Are you know,
which one?
well, you
Both
said,
of them.
I don't know.
Is there two?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had like I feel like every real estate deal has been a blessing. Like everyone's been crazy to me. Like every deal that I do, I'm just mind blown of like how it works. And I don't want to make it seem like real estate is just this easy thing and like it's just money over fist and like it's just pouring in through the windows, and it's because it's really not. But putting in hard work and actually putting in the time and effort to make deals happen, good things come with that, and not to say bad things can't happen. Knock on wood, I've been lucky enough not to have, really any bad deals happen yet. But it will, I'm ready for that when it does come, because I know that anything good comes with some bad. And so eventually I'm sure by doing more deals, I'll eventually have one that I could tell like, man, this was a horrible deal, but I've been lucky enough so far just to have pretty solid deals that worked out well. And were helped me get to where I'm at and continue to scale. And so I've had some pretty crazy ones. I mean, we were talking earlier before this about a couple different ones. And I had a deal in particular I bought last year. I believe it was last year. I can't remember. I think it was last year. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it might have been 2021, but the years go by so quick now that I'm getting older. I can't even remember what year it was. I think it was 20.
Yeah, you're an old man, buddy.
Dude, I'm telling you, it actually is crazy how fast time flies when you do get older. Like 24 to me,
I mean, you
24 to me
have kids,
feels
dude. If you have
crazy.
kids, you're not even.
It feels crazy. But so anyways, I think I bought this deal last year, and at the time it was like it was about in half of the year. So it was like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months into the year. And I don't think I had picked up any deals, maybe one before that. So I was like super hungry to buy something. And I mean, you could have thrown something in front of me, and I probably could have got stupid and bought something I shouldn't have. Like I was ready to jump. Not really. I usually try to buy things right, but so a good friend of mine called me on one that he had got a referral on or a lead on, and he's not in real estate, but he had connected with me and was like, "Hey, I've got this property that I think somebody might be interested in selling," and so um, we went and looked at it, and he asked what I'd pay for it, and I kind of threw a number out at him, and he was like, "Well, I think we can get it for this number," and so long story short, he kind of negotiated the whole deal, and I told him where I kind of wanted to be at, or kind of what I wanted to pay, and so we got the deal done, and I paid him a $20,000 referral fee for getting that deal over to me, which was huge for him because I mean he's not in real estate, and I could have given him 5K and he probably would have been happy, but I was excited and I threw the number out there and the numbers made sense for me. And so if, I was able to be able to pay him that much on a referral fee and the deal still made sense. And so I gave him 20 grand on for a referral, and it was 2 houses directly next to each other. There was a road that split down the center of them, but they were both corner houses on pretty much a main road in Clarksville. Both pretty good amount of land. One of them was a much rougher house on about 2 acres. House needed a lot of work, more than I had ever really done on a rehab. And the other one, not so much. Actually, really nice house, all brick, 3-bed, 1-bath, basement, 2-car detached garage on 3 acres. I think I put a roof on it, painted it, and did pretty much just a little bit of cosmetic work. It was like a 10 or 15K rehab. And the house appraised really well, just at enough to where I could get all my cash out of the deal on one of the houses. And so I put debt on one of the houses, and then they were separately deeded, but I bought them together as one transaction. And so the other house I decided to end up just selling. And so I sold that other house for $120,000. And so essentially that was profit because, I could have used it to pay down the debt on the other house, but I'm keeping this other house that's rented out currently right now that I have the debt on. So that debt is getting paid because it's rented out. And I essentially have almost no money in it. I have a little bit in that house, but I sold the other house, looked at that kind of as profit. And then so that one was cool too, because we talked about kind of how you can split your cost basis or offload some of the cost on one because you bought them together. And so since I plan on keeping one and I sold the other one, we loaded the cost basis on one of the houses. And so essentially showed that my cost was what I sold the property for, which my CPA says is illegal. So I'm not a CPA or tax person, but I'm just saying kind of what my CPA told me. So if there's an issue there and you're a CPA, or if the IRS is watching this, then we can have a meeting with my CPA, I guess. So but yeah, that deal was awesome. I really enjoyed that deal. And I was telling you that kind of the long-term goal with that is it does sit on 3 acres, and it's R4 zoning all the way around it. And we kind of have it plotted out. We drew up I had an engineer draw out kind of what we could fit there. And so we have it mapped out for 27 units, multifamily. So eventually I'll probably end up tearing the house down that's there after I pay down some of that debt, or whenever the time comes right. And I'll either sell the lots off or get somebody to develop those units there for me. And I don't know, maybe I'll hold them, maybe I'll sell them. I'm not sure where I'll go yet with that, but I think that deal in the end of the day will be a pretty big one. So that's probably one of my best ones I've had. Really fun deal. Enjoyed the whole way of it. So I guess that's a crazy one.
Dude, that is a crazy one, man. Because you think about that deal is going to make you. I mean, you already made over 100 grand right now. You have an asset that you're in for $0. It's cash flowing, appreciating, tax benefits, and then you're going to tear it down and build, or potentially build these units and sell the land, or
Solo units,
build
yeah.
it and
And all
sell
that's
it.
contingent on I do have to have the property rezoned, which I truly think that eventually I could push it because it's zoned ag now.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, the city or they don't want ag out in the middle of the city or what. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I mean, I'm literally trapped in by R4, so I couldn't really see much of an issue of why they wouldn't give me R4 rezoning there because it would close in that whole R4 block there. So it shouldn't be an issue, but all that building and selling lots is contingent on having it rezoned.
That's awesome, TJ. Well, man, that's an incredible story. Pretty inspiring for us, for me, especially our viewers. I think we got to wrap up. Blake, what about you?
I
You got any
know.
more
I mean,
questions?
I'm just looking at myself when I was 24, and I am inspired right now. At 32, I'm still not even close to TJ, so we need to get to work,
Right.
Kyle.
Well, don't play the comparison game because that's a huge trap. I've done that my whole life. Because once you start comparing yourself to people, and then you get to where they're at right now, and then by the time you're where they're at, they're like 10 years
Get
down,
further.
Yeah, you
and
got to
you're like,
play.
I can't keep up with
You
that.
got to play your own game for sure. I think being younger, that's something I kind of struggle with a lot. Like I know some people that are, around my age that are really crushing it. And I'm just like, man, I need to get on my game. But everybody plays their own game at their own speed. Like it next year could be a completely different ballpark for me in a good way or a bad way. And so you just don't know. I think like, play your own game, do what's right for you at that time and stick with what you do best and just keep the ball rolling. At the end of the day, you just got to really make sure that I think the biggest thing is making sure you enjoy what you do. Because if you're miserable doing it, it'll never really work out for you. So that's the biggest thing. Love what you do for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, TJ. Well, last question. How can people follow you? Who do they call if they want to sell a house?
Call Harris Homes, baby. No, yeah. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can follow me there at TJ Harris with two S's. So it's TJ HARRISS. I do post some real estate content. I've been slacking pretty hard on it. I'm also on TikTok. I posted a lot of content on there as well. I believe it's the same thing. It might just be TJ Harris, and then on Facebook as well at TJ Harris. You can reach out anywhere on there. And I'm always open to try to help too. I mean, I didn't have anybody to kind of help me when I got started, but thankfully over the time I've had mentors be willing to sit down and have lunch with me and kind of pour into me and teach me and help me grow to where I'm at today. And so without that, I definitely wouldn't be at the place I'm at. So I'm always willing to, especially younger people, like, there's people out there that are 18 or 19 that was in the same position I was. Like, reach out, if you're watching this video and you need help with anything real estate related or anything, just business in general, if it's something I can help with, shoot me a DM or message me on Facebook. And if it's something I can help with, I'm more than glad to help.
What about us older people?
I
Older
know.
people
About
too. I mean,
30-year-old.
hey, anybody, any age, doesn't matter. If it's something I can help with, reach out anytime. If I'll try to get back to you. I do get quite a few DMs. And I do try to get back to all of them, and I usually do. But I actually enjoy helping other people.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been an honor having you on for sure. You've been a great guest. I think that wraps us up, doesn't it, Blake? You want to close us out?
Yeah, man. No, TJ, thank you so much. Episode 11, real estate in different states. Thank you so much, TJ. Honor,
Yes, sir.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you
guys
so
for having
much.
me on.
See
Yes,
y'all
sir.
later.